Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Antonov, and I'm the Managing Director of MINEX Forum. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to the inaugural MINEX Europe Forum, which we are launching together this morning. Before we start, let me briefly tell you about MINEX Forum and what we're trying to achieve. MINEX is an abbreviation for mining and exploration. MINEX Ether stands for Drilling and Realizing Potentials. MINEX is the platform for like-minded professionals who get together to share their thoughts, aspirations, and passion for mining. Mining Forums addresses two essential parts: smart mining and smart money. Smart mining is about introducing new technologies to make mining more efficient, productive, and in few cases, revolutionary. It's about assisting regulators and legislators with aligning laws which could embrace emerging business, investment, and economic opportunities. It's about educating future generations of mining professionals and tomorrow mining leaders. It's about bringing smart miners together. Smart mining is about getting smart miners and smart financiers to talk to each other about new and exciting projects and business ventures. Our MINEX Forum journey began in 2004 with the dream of few men who wanted to start a dialogue on aligning Russia and its mining to its best global practices. And I'm glad that three of these wise men are with us this morning. I'm delighted to introduce you to Dr. Armitage, Chairman of the SIK Group, Alex Mikhailov, he's the Director of Mineral Exploration Network, and Mikhail Leskov, he's the Deputy Chairman of the Russian Gold Producers Union. Welcome. I'm also glad to say that thanks to the ethos of and support of this and many other forward-looking people, MINEX Russia and MINEX Russia Forum has become the country's most vibrant platform, inspiring and introducing changes in Russia's mining today. MINEX Forum has many achievements we're proud of. Among them is its contribution to introducing Russia to the CRIRSCO family of international standards for reporting mineral reserves and resources. Launched in 2010, MINEX Central Asia Forum has become a truly exciting platform assisting Kazakhstan and other Central Asian states with the realization of their mineral potential and bringing mining to the 21st century. As a vocal member of the UK-Kazakhstan Intergovernmental Committee, MINEX Forum and its founding members take active part in shaping Kazakhstan's mining law and promoting dialogue between the government, mining and investment communities and changes needed to infuse new investment and technologies into mining and exploration in Central Asia. What we are trying to achieve here at MINEX Europe Forum, there is a common misconception that mining in Europe is virtually non-existent and there is little potential for discovering or exploiting new deposits. We believe this is to be false. After years of anti-mining sentiments, the EU and other European countries are starting to recognize opportunities gained from exploiting natural resources closer to home. We hope that MINEX Europe will become an international and annual technical investment conference, helping to promote mineral exploration and mining across the European continent, from the Nordic countries and Iceland to Turkey and the Balkans. I would like to thank SIK Consulting, ERM, and EU-funded FAME consortium of 16 organizations like World Amsterdam International for supporting MINEX Europe Forum and its initiative, and look forward to starting the great journey called MINEX Europe together with you. Thank you. Okay, so the first session we are starting this morning is called MYTHBUSTER, Does Europe Have an Economically Viable Mineral Base? I pass the microphone to Dr. Armitage, the Group Chairman and Corporate Consultant for SRK Consulting. He will be moderating this session, and after this session we'll have a coffee break. Thank you.
Morning everybody. It's great to see you all here. I was actually going to say a few words, but Arthur seems to have said everything that I was going to say, so I obviously shouldn't have told him what I was going to say last night. But perhaps just a few words. As Arthur said, MINEX was conceived on a bridge in St. Petersburg about 12 years ago. I don't know why I'm looking at Arthur because he wasn't there. By myself and two colleagues. And our aim was to, we had spent several years visiting clients in Russia, talking about resource and reserve reporting, and particularly how resources and reserves were reported in the West, because companies in Russia were quite keen to be able to present their projects in a way that could be understood. And rather than keep going to one company after another, we sort of conceived the idea of having a meeting where we would welcome companies to come in and we would talk about resource and reserve reporting. And that was really how MINEX was formed. We envisaged a meeting of 30, 40 people who were going to come and talk about resource and reserve reporting. And as we started to advertise this, the numbers grew and grew, and it got to the point that we just decided it was just too big to organise for SRK. I mean, we have hardly enough time organising a board meeting with 6 people, let alone getting 100 people together. So we got in touch with Arthur and asked if he would help out. And we conceived the idea of holding a meeting in Moscow. We sat down the night before the first MINEX. We had a bit of a gamble between Mikhail Leskov, who's there, myself and Sasha, about how many people we thought would turn up the next day. I think the common census would be around about 100 people, and the audience, the room was built for about 100 people, but we had over 300 people turned up, and that was how MINEX started. And it was a really good conference, and it's grown from strength to strength in Russia, and as Arthur said, it is the premier mining conference now in Russia. And 5 years ago we started Kazakhstan, and all through that time, all through those 11 years, Sasha, who's sitting over there, kept saying we should have a conference in Europe so that I can talk about my projects. This kept coming back every year. Finally we relented, and of course we picked the perfect time of the market to set up the first SRK Europe. But it is great that despite the fact that the markets are low, there's so many of you here, and Arthur was telling me that there are people from 28 different countries here today. So it just shows you that even though the market's down, the idea of getting together and talking is still there. And one of the fundamentals of MINEX has always been, this is not a conference where people come and pay some money and talk and advertise their companies. It's a conference where people come and they talk about technical issues and issues concerning the mining industry relevant to Europe in this case. And that's what we hope it'll continue to be, that it'll be a conference where people come and they talk about issues of relevance. So anyway, and this session this morning is a perfect example of that, I think. And it's my pleasure to introduce it. So the first speaker we have this morning is Kaija, who's with the Finnish Geological Survey. Jukka.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually, I'm very pleased to be the first speaker of today. Yesterday I talked to Artur about this MINEX 2015 conference, and I think this is a new start to have this kind of conference in Europe. And I hope that, and I'm sure that one of the best outcome of this conference will be the new networks that will start to build here in these 2 days. So I was the project manager or coordinator of this MINEX for You project, and that was actually quite exceptional project. We had partners from Ukraine to Ireland, or actually to Greenland, because the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland was involved in this. So I will give you a short overview of this European Commission funded project. Here's the outline of my presentation. Although Mike said that this is not about advertising. I have to say some words about my company. So only a few slides about that. Then background, why was this project funded by the European Commission? Why was it so important? Then I will go to targets and present some facts about the project. And then after that, I will go into more details of the project. Well, Geological Survey of Finland is, we operate under the Ministry of Economy and Employment in Finland, and we have a staff around 550 this year. But next year we will have a whole new organization, and you can see the different units which present our expertise, from geoenergy to mineral resources and to groundwater. And this is the new organization starting next year. So we have been active in all continents during the past years, and nowadays we are active in Peru, Bolivia, Chile. In Peru and Bolivia we have projects ongoing, and in Chile, Malawi, and in Namibia there is a planned projects. And we are also active in Afghanistan and during the last years also in Vietnam. These are related to groundwater studies and but also for mineral resources studies. So let's start the actual presentation. For the background, this is a compilation of all the EU-funded projects which are related to mineral resources or databases and intelligent networking. And it actually started from ProMine. ProMine started in 2009 and it ended in 2013. And it was the first one which dealt with a huge amount of primary and secondary raw materials data. And ProMine was also the first attempt to make this European-wide knowledge base related to raw materials. At the same time, Eurogas was ongoing, and it mainly dealt with oil and gas, but also minerals. EU Rare started at 2013, and it's, as the name says, it's dealing with the rare earth elements, and it's still ongoing for, I guess, 2 years from now. Then this year, just in February, Prosum project started, and it's about prospecting secondary raw materials in the urban mine and mining waste. So, and many others like Biomore and of course FAME project. And not all the EU-funded projects from the Horizon 2020 are listed here. But basically, Minerals for EU is supposed to bind these all projects together, because all these big projects, they are producing huge amounts of data, and it's no use to make, if all these projects would make own database structure, that would be actually waste of public funded money. So Minerals for EU has made this knowledge base structure for all kinds of minerals related data. Background, as you saw, these past and ongoing projects, they present significant steps in the right direction, but there is still a number of barriers that need to be addressed. For example, there is no legal framework or EU institution with formal responsibility for mineral intelligence. And although these geological surveys, they hold huge amounts of data and they have in-depth knowledge, but their mandate is strictly national. And it means that the data it's not really harmonized throughout Europe. And also important information is needed also, important information is also held by other institutions, universities, industrial organizations, and so on. So it was important to have this Minerals for EU project, because according to Raw Materials Initiative from 2008, European Union needs a complete and reliable knowledge base, as well as supply and demand foresight on raw materials for a proper policy making to ensure access to raw materials. So Minerals for EU is fully compliant with the Raw Materials Initiative. And we are trying to, or we made this sustainable network to facilitate access to these resources and to promote collaboration among experts in Europe. One of the main targets in Minerals for EU was to build up this kind of operational service. It's the service or network structure that should deliver data, information and knowledge on mineral resources around Europe on a regular and on-demand basis. And actually we are trying to build up a sustainable permanent body to take care of these raw materials issues. And we are ready to go for this network, or I will tell you a little more about this later, but we are basically building up a foundation-based company who would take care of these kind of raw materials issues in Europe. And other targets besides the operational structure, main targets was to develop the European mineral raw materials yearbook and a roadmap and future implementation, updating and maintenance that yearbook after the project. And we also developed this EU knowledge data platform, which is fully compliant with the Inspire directive. And last target was to produce foresight studies on mineral raw materials, future supply and demand in the EU. And we had partners, we had like 32 partners, and most of the partners were from National Geological Survey Organization. That was a natural thing because they have knowledge and information and geology-related data, and they are national organizations responsible for taking care of or compiling this information. But also other organizations have a huge amount of expertise. And in Minerals for EU we had 4 partners which were essential in the field of raw materials flow and resource management. And these were Wuppertal Institute from Germany, and also Fraunhofer Institute from Germany, then from Sweden Raw Materials Group, and they were main partners in the mineral statistical work package and work foresight study. Then we had from the European Commission, we had a joint research center, which was a key partner in knowledge-based work package. Here's some facts and figures. On the right hand side, you can see the different work packages and the leaders of those work packages. This project was just 2 years. We started in 2013 and just ended last day of August this year. And technical and overall coordination was taken care by GTK and scientific coordination by Geological Survey's Mineral Resource Expert Group. And easy funding was 2 million euros. But 2 years and 2 million years, we noticed after the project ended that it was not enough. We should have had a 3-year project to compile everything together. But anyway, we managed to do all things that we promised in our description of work. So actually, Minerals for EU was a flagship project for the European Geological Surveys, and it still is considered as a flagship project. Here's the partner list, and in the blue color you can see those partners who are not from the Geological Surveys. And as you can see, we had 32 partners, 2 million euros. So it was a pity that we didn't have more money to accomplish everything. But this is, well, we had partners from Ukraine, Albania, Sweden, everywhere, almost all the European countries were covered. Yeah. So this is about permanent intelligence infrastructure for Europe, and we have called it M4EU. And this will be a foundation-style company with less formal network of members willing to and be able to contribute data, technology and expertise. And we are trying to, this foundation will be actually established in connection with the European Geological Surveys, and it should be a one-stop shop contact point through which stakeholders can easily access the products and services it provides. And core activities will be database services, mineral statistics and foresight studies. And there are also other possible topics for research and analysis, like exploration potential for resources and market analysis. For example, security of supply and critical raw materials. Then work package which dealt with European Minerals Knowledge Data Platform. This was led by French Geological Survey, PRGM. And on the right side you can see the screenshot of the database or this data platform portal. And where is the point? Here you can see here's the web address for this portal. And it's divided in data search, map viewer and minerals yearbook. And yes, minerals yearbook is also accessible from this side. And this system enables stakeholders from public and private stakeholders to find information from all national and regional data sources and also from past and ongoing projects like ProMine, Eurogesource, Eurer and Prosum. And there is also some statistical data from national and European statistics. Just a really general simplified architecture of the system. Basically, in the perfect world, this would be a self-sustainable system. Geological surveys or other agencies or institutes, they provide structured data for the system, which also has this suitable or available layers from geological surveys and other EU projects, geological, geophysical, geochemical maps. And these are all included in the web portal. And as I said, it was work led by PRGM. And actually, PRGM was also involved in ProMine, Eurer, Prosum, and Eurogesource project. So it was, and also in this, because it was a guarantee to have a same system to be used in all these projects. Here's a screenshot from the knowledge database viewer, and this is actually not correct information. We have I think over 20 countries who are providing serving their data through this system. And this is just to show there's a zinc Wolfram 100 occurrences in Europe. And you can see that there are some blank areas there, but I will next slide will show you an overview. This bigger one is actually a database which we compiled for Minerals for EU project. And there is a lot of empty areas there, because not all the partners were able to provide data in just a few months' time. But in the Minerals for EU system we have a database of ProMine and also other projects. So actually the whole Europe is really well covered. And also from Greenland we have information there, of course. And I suggest that when you have time, you should visit the portal and play with the system and see what it can do for you. I think it could be useful for your own work also. So, Minerals for Yearbook, this was actually launched at the end of September this year in Brussels, and it's a quite new service in European level. It's a digital version and it contains much wider data than ever before attempted. And this yearbook work package was led by British Geological Survey, and it's a simplified and user-friendly, efficient access to all available and new statistical data. And it covers 40 countries, including Turkey. It has 8 data types, and it also contains case studies of relating to recovery of 8 commodities from key waste streams. And all the reports related to this project, they are also included in the databases. So data types are production data for primary minerals, import and export data for primary minerals, resource reserve and exploration data for primary minerals, and this we have over 65 mineral commodities from aggregates to children in this system. There is also waste flow data, which is quite new. And then these 8 case studies, which I mentioned in my last slide. I mean, 8 mineral commodities studied aluminum, copper, dysprosium, iron, steel, indium, palladium, platinum, and yttrium. And as I said, you can download these full reports of related to these case studies from the system. I will just point out some of these data types. This is resource and research. And actually we gathered the information by sending questionnaires to different organizations, and we got 33 countries returned their questionnaires. And this resources, it covers single year 2013, and there was no attempt to standardize the statistical data regarding the commodity names or units and systems of reporting. Because there was as I said, we had only 2 years, and this work would have taken too much time in the frame of the European funded project. So there was also the use of terms resources and reserves, that it was not consistent between the countries. And then we find out that there are at least 20 different reporting codes in Europe. And this is something that we should try to sort out. This is exploration data. It contains 6 different metrics: expenditure, active licenses, new licenses, areas involved, companies, and activity summary. I'm not sure if you can see, but this is, for example, this is data for Greenland. And potential impacts we have thought about of the yearbook, it's that it will enable more informed national or easy policies and decisions to be developed for the benefit of society. And also the use by industry may inform future decisions and may facilitate investments in particular countries and or Europe as a whole. And of course it also provides a source of data for academic and other research for use in future studies into mineral-related topics for Europe. And this is the first edition of the yearbook, and I'm not sure, but maybe in 2 years' time there will be a second edition of the yearbook. It depends if we can get the funding for this permanent operational system. We are now in a little bit in a phase, we ended the project, and next year we hope that there will be some European Commission funding to maintain this system. And of course the partners in the Minerals for EU, many partners are willing to invest their own money to maintain this system. Foresight study, this was led by PGR, Geological surveyor for Germany, and it was actually all these presentations. Well, we had a final conference in Brussels, and there was a dedicated session for the foresight study, and it was called Looking Ahead, Exploring Different Facets of Raw Material Supply and Demand. And all these presentations in this, from the final conference and from the dedicated session, they are available from this website. And I guess all these presentations will be made available to all participants of this conference. Right, okay, yeah. So, foresight study, it was, there was one central report and several, I don't remember how many, but maybe 20, 30 case studies, reports, and the total number of the pages was like 400, 500 pages. But these are not in one document, so these are just small topics, reports. which will be available from the website also. And the foresight studies, it focused on non-energy raw material, metallic and non-metallic, and it focused also on critical raw materials according to EU definition, but not limited to those raw materials. And also industrial minerals and aggregates were included in the foresight studies. Also urban mines, landfills, I mean secondary raw materials, they were included in the foresight studies. And we also reviewed some technical trends that might change or increase demand for critical raw materials, like green technologies, high-tech application, and etc. And trends in raw material products and exploration were also reviewed. We reviewed some new projects we were aware of, new mining technologies were reviewed, and also investments. Here's our approach. Of course, societal trends was one of the most important topics to be studied, and also resource efficiency, emerging technologies, potential demand, future potential, mining, recycling, governmental restrictions, and a new mining project. These were all taken care of in this foresight study. And here is just to show the list of all the topics we covered. There were case studies, for example, legislative and governmental challenges in mining of Poland, societal challenges in mining in Finland, Sweden, Poland, and also in Greenland. Then we considered recycling, zero-waste mining, mining technology, concentration trends in the raw materials industry, and also future raw materials potential for mine waste. And as I said, these reports are available from the website. And there is a lot of interesting information, quite new information from the Europe. And all this is delivered electronically. And here you can see here's actually the website of the Minerals for EU, and they have access to knowledge data platform, and from there to European Minerals yet. So please visit these websites. This is easy to remember. And there is also other interesting information from we have a huge amount of reports that can be recovered from there. So thank you for your attention. And as I said, I am presenting this on behalf of the whole Minerals for EU consortium. So thank you.
I'm conscious of time, but if anybody does want to ask a question of Juha, they're more than welcome to.
Welcome, I'm Here I think an amazing approach in the right direction, but Minerals for EU deserves a permanent support by EU, as I think you are right at the beginning. Two things I pointed out. One is that you stated very clearly that there is no legal framework for EU responsibility to raw material resources. That is, I think, the central issue, that we got a better access to the EU policymakers to channelize the information we received. But I was wondering why you didn't attract investors with the information you collected. So my question, how do you attract investors? Certainly not by 500 pages of reports, but certainly by some passports or whatsoever, where they get a direct and quick access to the deposits that might be of interest. Secondly, I was wondering why Germany was blank. Of course, we have plenty of data, but recognizing all the partners, it's interesting to see that, of course, the data is sometimes very hidden. And if you're a federal country like Germany, then the data is hidden in the regional level, probably, and the National Geological Survey doesn't know that. So I think that deserves another approach where even the regions are involved, and probably also a partnership like a roll-in, roll-off partnering could be useful to break the project down to such a level where we would find more data. For instance, for the Saxon raw material cadastre, we identified more than 16 archives. Due to the history, they are split among private shareholders, but also private and public bodies, administration, and not only the Geological Survey. I think this needs to be considered for stage 2, 3, 4, 5. I hope you will have many. Thanks.
Thank you, Wolfram. For your second question, we are perfectly aware of what is the problem with the German data, and but also from data from, for example, Romania and other countries, because in some countries the national law forbids to give the information to these kind of systems. But I think that will be changed when the INSPIRE directive will be in full force. So it means that INSPIRE directive requires that these countries will be serving the data, because it has been directly combined with the public funded money. So, second, your first question about how to attract investors. Well, we had of course we had as in always in EU funded projects, we had a special work package for dissemination and exploitation. And actually we had a former PGS director of the international relations, David Ovadia, was our exploitation manager. And he organized few of there was 2 or 3 workshops where he managed to attract investors from. We had a meeting or workshop in London, in the very center area where all the money comes from, and the mining companies are there. So we had a really good workshop in London, and we attracted David Ovadia to blame for that, and David managed to get like 40 different investors in the same place. And there was something, we had discussions with them how to proceed, but these discussions are still ongoing. We hope to get the money because it's if you just leave this kind of system without maintaining, it's again a waste of public money.
Thank you. I think there are a lot of exploration companies that would give their IT for your budget. Our next speaker this morning is Owen, who is a corporate geologist with Imerys.
Thank you very much, Mike. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. And I'm just going to take the next 20 minutes just to give you a flavour of industrial minerals from a perspective of a company, Imerys, whom I work for, who are one of the global industrial minerals companies, fully diversified globally and across the spectrum of industrial minerals. And in my experience in these kind of conferences, industrial minerals are often sort of overlooked, put into that basket with cement and aggregates and these kind of minerals, which and the focus is very much on metals, and we lose something there, because industrial minerals and these other raw materials are an important contribution to the global economy, but equally to the European economy. So over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about what industrial minerals are, trying to give you some examples, make you think a little bit more about where we use them. But then, and then I'm going to look at 2 case studies. I'm going to look at kaolin and bentonite, and 2 specific mines which I think are world-class deposits, and they're in Europe. I'll expand a little bit on who Imerys are, what our assets are within Europe, and how we look after our mines, and ultimately try and dispel this myth that Europe doesn't have a viable minerals industry. So, what are industrial minerals? I expect most people have got a phone in their pocket or on the table, and there's a huge contribution of industrial minerals that go into making a telephone. So firstly, the screens. These are highly polished. They have very specific characteristics which need to be super smooth so that your finger, when you move across it on the touchscreen, you can get it to function. And these are using very high precision abrasives to polish that screen. The cover, the back cover, all the plastic on your phone will have industrial minerals within the plastic. Now, the industrial minerals in the plastic will add certain properties to the plastic, whether it's the ability to flex, its colour, some of the fireproofing, the thermal properties, whether it can be recycled. All those kind of elements of the plastic are what industrial minerals give to that material. The steel, the framework of the phone, the thing that gives it its rigidity, or not in the case of some phones, the steel is made in industrial processes that use refractories in the blast furnace, and those refractories are made from industrial minerals. And then ultimately, when you then roll and produce the steel specifically for these applications, you will do that again in what we call monolithic refractories, so cement products that have very specific thermal properties. And again, those are, we consider those industrial minerals. The microchip, which is the brains behind the phone, I mean, these huge amounts of technology there, they're based on silicium. The metal comes from silica, and they're manufactured in refractory processes, and ultimately the crucibles with which you make these things are made from very high purity quartz. And the quartz is an industrial mineral. It's not widely used or widely found, and we're able to produce that to the required specification that allows them to make those components. Your phones have various foils and so forth to protect the electrical components, and these are made from graphite, very high specification, not in the super new technologies in graphite, but they're still there, and graphite is an important industrial mineral. And equally, perhaps the thing that's driving a lot of interest in graphite and lithium at the moment is the batteries. Where do we go next with the battery technology? And obviously, those two minerals that I just mentioned are important components of that. And whether it's natural graphite, synthetic graphite, or carbon black, those are all important industrial minerals. So you can see here, from a simple definition of a telephone, that there's a huge range of industrial minerals that is going into that, and per phone, for sure, it's not necessarily a huge quantity, but if you think of the number of phones that are produced globally, then it starts to add up. So, a more formal definition of industrial minerals, as I've written here, the non-metallic minerals or rocks, finding applications in crude or processed form, and they can be functional additives, raw materials, or process enablers. And there's a wide range of manufacturing and other industries that they go into. So industrial minerals are typically a business-to-business market transaction. So we will sell a industrial mineral product which goes to a secondary industry, either to make the product or be in the product. So we categorize them as three categories. We have what we call functional additives. So these are minerals that are added as a small component of the final product. So if you think of your plastic on your car, the bumper, for example, there's a significant quantity of industrial minerals in that. 30–40% by volume of the plastic is industrial minerals, whether it's kaolin, mica, talc, sometimes feldspars, and they give it some of its ability to withstand impacts, to flex. Otherwise it would be very brittle, and equally they reduce the weight, so it allows you to be more economic in your car, better fuel efficiency. The second category would be the actual raw materials. We see glasses on the table. These are obviously made from silica sands, but equally the ceramics that we had coffee in this morning, they're made from industrial minerals, the sort of typical clays, kaolins, sands, feldspars, which make up sanitary ware, tableware, and those kind of ceramic products. And the qualities that we look for in those minerals are often the colour. Nobody likes to see a sort of beige piece of tableware, and equally the strength, both during the industrial process when you make them, but equally the final product. So that if you did drop it on the floor, maybe it wouldn't break. And finally, the final category category we call process enablers, and these are minerals which don't make it into the final product, but they are an integral part of the industrial process. So typically, for us in Imerys, we look at refractory products. So these are linings for kilns, lining for furnaces, and they have specific thermal properties which allow them to withstand the heat in those environments. And equally things like steel casting, the sands that are used in repeat casting for those, they're not used in, they're not in the final product, but they're an integral part of the process. So within Europe, just some figures that I pulled together. Industrial minerals, there's over 700 mines across Europe, and it's a huge number. And they employ quite a considerable number of people, 42,000, and 180 million tonnes with a value of about 10 billion. So, those numbers are pretty significant, across Europe. And the second table here lists some minerals. Some will be more or less familiar to you, but it shows how Europe has an important part to play in the global supply. So we're not just supplying the local market, but we're often providing mineral for a global industry. And there are some deposits within Europe which are hugely important globally. I mean, you can see there Feldspar, Turkey. There's an area in southwest Turkey, which is a huge producer of feldspar, sodic feldspar for ceramics. I'll talk a little bit more about kaolin and bentonite, but some of these other ones, diatomite is in there. I mean, that's used primarily as a filter product. I mean, when you drink your beer from Heineken, it uses a diatomite to filter its beer, so it's transparent, you can see through it. Talc, we've already mentioned plastics, paints, paper, talc goes into those sort of applications, and mica. Mica is another one of these additives. It's often a byproduct from other industrial minerals, but we use that in various similar additive applications. So I'm just going to spend a little time talking about two deposits, one kaolin and one bentonite. So kaolin, what is kaolin? It's comprised of the mineral kaolinite, which is an alumina silicate. It's a plate mineral, or a platey silicate, and you can see in the micrograph here, this is a 1 micron, so typically it's very, very fine, and it has this platey structure. And that platey structure gives it various properties, both rheologically but also optically. It's white, it's plastic, it's often very thermally and chemically stable, so you can use it in an acid or a basic environment in industrial processes, so it has a lot of applications in that sense. It's kaolin, the name is actually derived from kaolin in China, and it had been used in the ceramics industry in China for thousands of years. So what do we use it for now? I've just picked 4 main industries for kaolin, so obviously ceramics. It's an important component in a lot of sanitary ware and tableware, and right the way through to very high-end electrical ceramics and some of these kind of applications. The historic market has very much been paper. It's used as both a filler to give the paper some rigidity, some opacity, but also as a coating mineral to go on the top of paper, certainly for glossy brochures and so forth. It provides the printing surface that is nice and shiny. We sell a lot into the paint industry. It replaces titanium dioxide in a lot of cases within paint to provide a white colour or an opaque white colour within the paint, but it's a fraction of the cost of TiO2. And plastics, we've already mentioned car bumpers, but it's used extensively in various other plastics for packaging and those kind of things. So it has a huge range of applications. And this is the deposit I want to talk about. So we're in the UK. We're down in the southwest in Cornwall, and this is the St Austell granite, or the St Austell area. And I hope from this image you can see, at the bottom here I've got a scale bar. So this is 2 kilometres. So you can see this is a huge mining district, very, very concentrated. But we have multiple multiple pits, and these pits have operated for a long time. They currently produce in the order of 800,000 to 900,000 tonnes of final kaolin product every year, mining 10 times that in terms of waste. And you have a range of structures, waste dumps, tailings dams, and all of those kind of things. But you can see from this image that just the sheer volume and size of the operations. Just a little bit of geology. How do these things form? They form from meteoric and hydrothermal alterations of a granite. So we had a granite which was a feldspar-rich granite, and the feldspar ultimately weathered to kaolinite through a chemical process, and that was driven through hydrothermal system, but equally a meteoric system. So you have a sort of funnel shape to some of these deposits, which as you mine, you sort of get increasingly restricted. And you can see this is just a simple picture, just showing one of the quarries, and one of the historical aspects of this is they were often mined using water, so they would spray high pressure water at the face, and this would wash the kaolin into a slurry, which they would then pump out of the mine. Historically, the sites have operated for 150 years. In their sort of heyday in the sort of 80s and 90s, they were producing 2 million, 2.5 million tonnes of kaolin, and most of that is for export. So the red line in this graph shows that the majority of the product is for export out of the UK. And globally, where do we sit? This is a little bit dated, these numbers, but the United Kingdom, which is these deposits effectively, they're producing a significant chunk of the global production of kaolin. So I think just looking at those elements really illustrates that this region in the UK and these deposits are certainly what I say is a world-class mineral asset and a world-class deposit for an industrial mill. Moving on to bentonite, just to look at a different area of Europe. What is bentonite? It's another clay mineral. It's actually it's not a mineral. It's a type of rock, and it's named after the Benton Shale in the US in Wyoming. And it comprises of a series of smectites. And the important thing about these smectites is their layered structure. So they have this sort of gap between the layers, and this gap can absorb a lot of water, and equally you can exchange the cations within it to give it various properties. It's formed from the alteration of volcanic ashes and pyroclastic flows. So you typically find it in either young volcanic areas or areas where there's a sedimentary sequence with a lot of volcanism associated with it. And the key properties that we're looking for here are water absorption and swelling. So as I said, the crystal structure allows it to absorb water, and it also swells. So some of the major uses in foundry sands, so this is silica that's mixed with bentonite and then produced into a mould. And we're looking at there in that not only is it sort of acts as a binder, but it also has the thermal properties that when you pour in your molten steel, it doesn't change the properties of the sand. Pelletizing, you compress the iron ore with bentonite and it forms pellets. So this is mainly for magnetite production, but it's an integral part of the blast furnaces constructing these pellets. Drilling and construction, this is often where bentonite's most widely known, in drilling muds where it swells, and certainly in construction for certain construction techniques where you need to grout and reduce the water permeability. And the final one I've put in there is pet products. Cat litter is a huge market for bentonite. Again, swelling, water absorption, but we also sell bentonite into various other applications such as pharmaceuticals, agribusiness, and health and beauty. So this deposit is in Greece. We're on the island of Milos, which is situated pretty much in the southern Aegean. and it's been active since sort of the 1970s as a major region. The island itself was originally known for its silver and its barite mines, and then as time gone on, the bentonite was discovered and increasingly mined. Interestingly, the island of Miloš also has a very strong contribution to perlite, which is another volcanic mineral which is used in a lot of construction for ceiling panels and things like that. And these two deposits make up quite a considerable quantity of the GDP of this particular island. So, in context, this deposit produces about 1 million tonnes of bentonite a year. You can see here the scale bar. We have about 500 metres here, so we're really looking at 2-3 kilometres long, half a kilometre across. It's about 100-150 metres deep, and the mining there is going to continue for the sort of foreseeable future. There's another image just to sort of, it's a big mine. It looks very impressive, but you know, geologically it's fascinating. You have all these different colours. You can see in the high wall here, all these different clay species. So this one's very kaolinite rich. This obviously iron-stained zone here, and they're all related to the underlying protolith rocks, the volcanic rocks that created those. This deposit itself is a calcium bentonite, and to use the properties that we want, you activate it by soda ash. So you add soda ash to the mineral, and the calcium switches with the sodium, and you end up with a sodium product which is more active and has better industrial properties. The processing is relatively simple. We dig it out, we shred it, we activate it with the soda ash, we have it in, we leave it to dry outside. It's nice and warm in Greece, and we leave it to dry for a couple of months, and after that time it's industrially dried down to about 10% moisture, and then that is sold. So it's a relatively simple process, but the end market of this, it goes throughout Europe, it goes internationally. It's very much a global player. And when we look at the production figures for bentonite, Greece accounts for 8-9% of the global bentonite production, and this deposit is the Greek bentonite producer. So, 8% of the world market. Again, I think that's a world-class deposit. So, just stepping back a bit and talking a little bit more about Imerys and Europe within Imerys. Imerys operates a full portfolio of industrial minerals. We have mines, we have processing plants. We produce a lot of powders. I mean, this is grey and white powders, seems to be our business. And then ultimately, we serve a whole range of markets, as I said, in business-to-business sales. We produce over 30 different minerals: bentonite, calcium carbonates, feldspars, graphites, kaolins, micas, the list goes on. We have a lot of revenue derived from Western Europe, but equally we have a lot derived from North America, and we're increasingly growing the markets in emerging countries with about 26% revenue from places like Brazil and China and India and these countries. You don't have the figures there. In terms of production, we have about 4 billion euros in annual revenue. We employ about 16,000 people. Our current operating income is around the 400 million euro mark, and we're listed on the Paris Stock Exchange, and we have a market cap of about 5 billion euros. So we are we are the biggest industrial minerals group within the world, and we are fully diversified across a whole range of minerals. What do we do in Europe? This is a simple graphic just showing our mining in Europe, broken down by category. We have a very historical base in France, as you can see, but this is the kaolin I mentioned in the UK. This is before we recently purchased the bentonite mine, so this slide doesn't involve the bentonite, which would be a big spot about here. But we have talc, feldspars, This is a calcium carbonate deposit we have in Greece, feldspar in Turkey. This is a perlite deposit, So, diversity of mining sites across Europe. As I mentioned, we're listed in Paris, and we annually report our mineral assets. We explicitly use the PERC standard, 2013, and we consolidate our reporting. We have over 140 mining sites, so listing each one of those would be a somewhat painful exercise in an annual report. So we produce this sort of consolidation, and this is our mineral assets from Europe, expressed in thousands of tons. So you can see here, we have significant quantities of clays. We have a roofing market, roofing business in France, and variable other minerals. But we, take talc for example. We have significant 12 million tons of raw materials declared as reserves in talc within Europe. So we have a good reserve base in Europe. And what do we look for? What are our challenges? Obviously maintaining this reserve base and finding new minerals. I mean, we operate generally fairly mature mining areas, and if once those are finished, where are the next ones coming from? And we need industrial minerals are often derived, they don't fall under mining codes, and as a result, they often don't have exploration relies on actually owning the land, which is often a problem and a challenge. So, what are my conclusions? Well, I think industrial minerals, hopefully I've shown that they are an important part of the mining landscape in Europe. And Europe, we continue to see Europe as not only an important market, but also an important source of industrial minerals. And there are world-class deposits within Europe, without a doubt. I mean, I've mentioned two. We can talk about others. There's some talc deposits which are unique within the world. There's some really special areas. And I think the important thing that I certainly see the value in these conferences is trying to really identify where the next things are coming from. What's the procession of new projects that are coming on board? Maybe in the less well-known industrial minerals, but I think we're always on the lookout for new opportunities and seeing where we can grow. So I think it's and specifically within Europe. So I think it is an important part, and hopefully I've dispelled the myth that Europe doesn't have a mining industry, and it certainly does in my view. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Owen. Does anyone have a quick question before we move on? A regular.
Once again, that's it. A very quick question. Do you intend to extend your business in any other commodities than industrial minerals?
Imerys is very much focused on industrial minerals. We have a history of coming from from the late 1990s when Imerys, the French company, purchased ECC, the UK company. They very much focus on industrial minerals, and our business model is very much industrial minerals. So there's nothing in the pipeline that suggests we look outside of that. It's a strong business model, and it makes our shareholders some money. So that's what we need to do.
Thank you, Owen. Okay, our next speaker this morning is Jonge, who is the Manager for Market Development, Marine Mining, with IHC Mining.
Okay, there we go. Welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce to you another type of mining which might not be that well known and maybe new. Marine mining. That's something that is certainly happening, but maybe not as mature as we would like it to have. Well, this is the outline of my presentation. I'll go quickly through, and you can follow it from here. First, myself. I'm Jonge, but most important is that mining is happening. and as I did myself in marine diamond mining in Namibia about 17, 18 years ago, developed all this equipment and started mining. And I'm from IC, and we build mining equipment. So we're not a mining company, but we build equipment for you. And we're involved in 2 major FP7 projects regarding marine mining. And I'll introduce them soon. What do we see if you look at the map of Europe? And Euromax was just introduced. We see a lot of dots, but there is a whole blue area which is not recognized. And Europe is so much bigger, because besides the land, there's a huge amount of EEZ, as we call it, exclusive economic zones. Actually, it's larger than the landmass of Europe. So that creates an opportunity. And even if we look further on the world, this is the exclusive economic zone of Europe. And all over the world, we have little islands introducing a 200-mile zone around it, which gives opportunity for exploration and exploitation. At the moment, of course, everybody knows oil and gas, fisheries, etc. But these areas could also be mined for minerals. And if you look at the world, this is the exclusive economic zones of the world. And as you can see, it enlarges countries to a huge amount. And if you look to the largest countries in the world, France is the 2nd in the world. United Kingdom, 5th, taking into account the EEZ zones of their landmass and the landmass. This also gives a rise for conflict, I have to say. If you look certainly in this area, where China is claiming a lot of land or sea to little islands and have conflicts with Japan, Taiwan, etc. That could be a matter of conflict. But there's also a huge amount of area outside these EEZs. This is called the area. And the area is recognized by the United Nations as a heritage of humankind. And so it should benefit the whole world. But how did they do that? It's not given away. They instituted a body, the International Seabed Authority, who governs all this area and gives away exploration licenses for the moment. Not yet exploitation. Exploitation will happen, but not in the near future. But they will have to take care of a fair and well distributed distribution of this wealth. For the moment, as you can see, huge areas are already given out for exploration. Here for polymetallic nodules. This is seafloor massive sulfides comparable to land-based mines, and cobalt-rich manganese crusts. So what can you find in the ocean and in the EEZs? Of course, at the moment, we're already mining for mineral sands, gold, tin, diamonds, and iron sands. These are well within range. If you would ask me, you could mine them tomorrow, or it is happening today. Future potentials, marine phosphates, a little bit deeper, 300 meters water depth, but a couple of years' time, you'll mine those. Gas hydrates, maybe the power or energy source for the future. Seafloor massive sulfides, cobalt-rich crusts, and manganese nodules or polymetallic nodules. Those are a little bit further ahead, but certainly worth trying. But what is happening now? Miners don't like to get their feet wet. We all recognize this little boy here in the corner, and we love that. But now miners are afraid of water, because this is what they're afraid of. And that's not necessary. Don't be afraid. Mining has been happening for years and decades in the ocean. So, tin mining since the 1930s. And my company has been involved in these first tin dredges, still operating. Glomar Explorer, everybody knew it was a CIA cover-up, but They also tried for manganese nodules in the 70s. Diamond mining still happening in Namibia, offshore. And on land, wet mining as well. Dredge mining for heavy minerals, gold, aggregates, and for many other commodities that some of the areas are well known. And of course marine mining, as I just mentioned. So you see it's happening. These machines are being used day by day. So how can we get marine mining into maturity? Of course there is a lot of work to be done, and not only on the technology side. We need an economically feasible business case, of course. But not only economically, sometimes it can be strategic as well. So if you have a strategic business case, it could work. Then we of course need technical developments. If you go to larger depth and harder rock, you need other technology. And the environment plays an important role. So we have to be sustainable and protective of the environment. The legislation, of course, still needs to be developed, as was mentioned before. Certainly for the area where we need the UN to act. And of course you need a social license to operate. The public needs to be aware that this is mining for the future, and mining that can be sustainable and maybe less, with less involvement in their direct livelihood. So how do we work this? This is our program, and this is what our vision for the future. This is how we work. Our plan started even before 2008. And you can see it goes on beyond 2020 and probably long ahead. But we are determined to get there. And we work together with several groups to get all of these issues out of the way. And luckily the EU found this kind of projects and awarded it with 2 major projects at the moment, and hopefully we will get some in Horizon 2020 as well. Technology. Currently we're busy developing the vertical riser systems and looking at the collectors and the cutters below. An important step as well is looking at the vessel and the logistics around it. It's not only mining, it's also the whole logistics. If you're out there 3,000 miles at sea, you need logistics. So how is that being developed? Blue mining is a major project funded by the EU. It started in 2014 and is now currently halfway. It gave a total cost of 15 million with 10 million funding by the EU. So what are we, if you look at all these partners, we have about 19 from 6 countries, and this is actually what we're heading for. We look at in 2 work packages to exploration and finding new deposits. And we do a part of a feasibility study in the technology side. In work package 4 and 5, VTS is developed, logistics and transferring of shores are developed, and extraction system and mining tools developed. If you then look at the business case, in work package 3, the business case is developed. Then MINEX. MINEX is a project that actually looks upon the sustainable development of such mining in the marine area. And it includes many actually if you go to this, many well-known institutes and universities to develop a system with all these work packages to find a way to do this sustainable and in an environmentally friendly way. So what's next? With these 2 projects and with our own internal projects, we've come to the conclusion that for us, and we have to focus, and our focus will be for the next couple of years, manganese nodules, or polymetallic nodules as they are better named. Why? They're in great abundance, and there is no hard rock excavation. They're actually easy to pick up. You can compare it to harvesting of potatoes, and they have a very nice composition of metals. Of course, that's one of the big issues. The processing to get all of these out is of course very difficult, but that's one step that we still have to take and needs development, and that's why we need you. We think that polymetallic nodules is the best opportunity for an economic or strategic business case for the future. But not only that, of course, all EEZ zones, all other commodities, we can help you out in getting those out. And we want to exploit those. So how does it follow this picture? We're now about here, and we hope to go pilot mining in a couple of years' time, and really go out there and get those nodules out. So what has to be done? Within FP7 we have a dissemination work package as well, and we want to go find the right opportunities and public-private partnerships to go ahead. And of course, we are here, equipment supplier. In our group we have an operator, we have a concession holder, we are closely related to the authorities, the ISA and the EU. But what we're lacking is processing and our connection with the market. So what we want to do is to get a European partnership to get this rolling. Maybe not in a couple of years' time, it takes time, but it's a dynamic area. People will come in, come out, but we have a vision that this will happen. So what is my conclusion? Marine mining, is that an option for raw materials? I think yes, there's a huge opportunity. And it's very much bigger than you think, and within European hands, because the areas you can take into your control. So there's independent resources out there, and we should take a strategic position within the EU. And the technology is well on its way. I have to admit, it's not out there yet. But for your EEZ zones, there is plenty of opportunity to take the technology there, and for the deeper waters, we'll get there very soon. Thank you.
Does anyone have a question for Lawrence before we move on this?
Does offshore mining also imply offshore processing? Or do you envisage bringing material back to land to process?
That completely depends on the type of material. If you look at the diamond mining and the tin mining at this moment, mineral processing, yes. Metallurgical processing, I don't think so. If it involves chemicals, etc., it would be too large systems and too large offshore. So in that case, we would look for concentration of the material, bring the concentrated material back to shore. In case of diamonds, only diamonds leave the vessel.
Thank you. Okay, so let's Stan.
Stan, I'm just wondering what kind of cost you'd be looking at, say, per ton of copper if you were producing this deep sea stuff.
Well, that's always a very difficult question, of course. Costs, I think, really depend on the opportunity you have. So each different deposit is different, it has a different opportunity. If you look at the, I think tomorrow we'll see another presentation on a specific mine, and they will probably be able to better cost announce the cost. But I think that's very hard to say. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Lawrence. Okay, our next speaker this morning is Steffen Schmidt, who is international project manager international mining with Wolfram Bergbau. Steffen.
Thanks, Mike. Ladies and gentlemen. Nothing to see. Anyway, I can start giving my talk a little bit to hold up Austrian mining here, since we are in Austria. And tungsten is also an example where we have really examples of world-class deposits in the European Union, or in Europe in general. Well, other than Imerys, who's producing millions of tons of grey and white powders, we do produce a few thousand tons of black powder. First a disclaimer, because it's an overview of tungsten in Europe and it's not complete, and I don't want to pronounce anything about the likelihood of any of the projects to go ahead. It's forward-looking statements. We don't know what happens in general. Short introduction to our company. Wolfram Bergbau Hütten AG is a world-leading vertically integrated manufacturer of tungsten and tungsten carbide powders. The company was founded in 1975 to develop the MINEX scheelite deposit in the Austrian Alps. And since 2009, we belong to the Global Sandvik Group. So we operate one underground mine in MINEX, which is close to Salzburg, about 400 kilometers from here, and state-of-the-art refinery and powder plant close to Graz. It's actually the only tungsten company outside of China which has all the direct expertise from mining through APT production and to the manufacturing of tungsten carbide. And the value of the company actually lies more in the refineries than in the mines. Unfortunately, I'm a geologist, but I have to admit that the refinery is a more important part. And so the success for the company obviously relies then on secure, predictable and economic supply with raw materials, which means that we have a very flexible setup. We use various recycling techniques. We use concentrates from our own mine, of course, but we also buy wolframite and scheelite concentrates from mines worldwide and also from Europe. And just if there's very high demand, then we use some intermediates from China. A few basics about tungsten. It's a metal with really very extraordinary properties. It has the highest melting point of all metals. It has the same density as gold, and in form of tungsten carbide is almost as hard as diamond. And then the applications, obviously, they fit to this. I mean, everybody knows the filament in a light bulb, counterweights in cars, or the little shaking device in telephones. But most important is really the hardness when it's produced as a tungsten carbide and then used in cutting tools. Annual consumption worldwide is only in the range of 125,000 tons, so that's about what one single copper porphyry mine would produce for copper. Has a very high recycling rate because the tools can be easily collected and recycled, about 50% in Europe and the US, 30% overall. Commodity is marked by the dominance of China. About 80% of the primary material comes from China, and therefore it's also listed as a critical raw material by the European Union. It's also one of the conflict minerals according to the Dodd-Frank Act in the US and forthcoming EU regulations. Overview of a price development and the market specifics. So, tungsten is traded, or the base price is US dollar per MTU, WO3 and APT. Sounds complex. 1 MTU is 10 kilograms, WO3 is the oxide of tungsten, is a factor of about 126, and APT is a readily traded intermediate product, ammonium paratungstate. There are actually limited offtake opportunities unless a company which constructs a mine thinks about China. There are only a handful of companies outside of China which can use tungsten concentrates. It's impossible to hedge. There's very limited data in public domain. Even I don't know exactly how much material is bought with outside of China or produced. These are figures which are not in the public domain. Has a big impact of strategic and commercial stockpiles throughout the history of the use of tungsten, and has a high impact of recycling data. So forecast of price and consumption, supply-demand balance is very difficult, and looking back, it has been generally wrong. We have here the development of the prices and consumption. So we see the consumption, and people might think that goes up sharply and it's very encouraging, but essentially between the 1950s and the 2000s only twofold increase of consumption, and when we think about something like molybdenum, it would be 7 or 8-fold, or nickel, copper, zinc about 5-6-fold. 3 market price peaks during the Korean War because there was stockpiling. In the 1970s, there were capacity constraints, and during this time, many major mining companies started tungsten exploration, and virtually all the deposits which we are talking about today have been found either before or during the 1970s. And then we have then there were 20 years where the prices were very low because China dumped material on the market, and virtually all Western mines had closed. And when China closed this road in 2005, then the prices went up to about 200 to 300. Currently, we are in a dropping prices because of oversupplies and very high stocks. If we come to tungsten in Europe, that's very interesting because Europe has really world-class deposits. And there are a couple of tungsten clusters in the world, and one of the big clusters is the Iberian Peninsula. Really absolute world class. We have a broad range of deposit styles, skarns, Greisen, stockwork zones, and also typical Wolframite mines in Europe. 2 classic operating mines, one rather new operator and one startup. So if we compare how much is mined in Europe compared to the consumption, tungsten is probably the metal #1 in Europe. The mines which we have are competitive on world scale, and there are quite a lot of projects in Europe. A short overview of the existing mines in Europe. There is first of all Panashkera, that's based on high-grade quartz wolframite veins. It's more than 100 years in production, over 100,000 tons produced. That means it's about 1 annual consumption of mined material for the globe on the global scale. We're currently producing about 1 million tons per year and 1,000 tons of WO3. It's a mechanized room and pillar mining, so this is low-profile LHDs in order not to have too much dilution. Beneficiation is typical for wolframite is by density methods. They use dense media separation and tables. And one specific fact about the mine is also comprehensive wastewater management system. It's important to take care of the environment in Europe because they have acid mine drainage. The Mittersill mine, that's our own mine, belongs to our company. It's a very stockwork, quartz vein stockwork, which is related to a granitic intrusive in older metamorphic rocks. The scheelite mine, discovered in 1967 and already 8 years later operated as an open pit, and since 1979 it's a trackless underground mine. Produce about 500,000 tons per year, and after beneficiation means about 1,000 tons WO3 in concentrates. Extraction today 15 million tons, fairly large scale underground operation with open stoping and sublevel caving. Beneficiation is with X-ray sorting and flotation. What's nice about the mine is really the location. It's in Austria here in the high Alps in the touristic area, very close to a national park. So one can do mining in an environment like this. And also the area is very prone to avalanche risk, and so we have everything underground. All you see from the mine, except of the beneficiation plant, is this portal. There's the offices, change rooms, workshops, everything's underground. Then we crush underground and transport it through a 3 kilometer long tunnel with conveyor belts to the beneficiation plant. The beneficiation plant itself is a much less sensitive area. Los Santos is operated only since mid-2000s about. It's in Spain. Several skarn, scheelite ore bodies, open pittable, and they would have the possibility to go underground longer term to extend the mine life. Discovered during the tungsten boom in the 1970s, 1980s, and then developed by a major mining company, Billiton in this case, but then picked up by Australian Junior and developed in the mid-2000s. Current production rate, again, 500,000 ton and a little bit more than 1,000 tons of WS3 in concentrate. Conventional open pit, and beneficiation is again by density methods. And finally, Dragan, which is a Hammerdon deposit in the United Kingdom. It's a stockwork Ryzen deposit, upper portion of a partly kaolinized Russian granite. It's actually surrounded by the China clay mines there in the surrounding of southwest England. And this mine now is a historic tin mining area, and there was some limited tungsten operations in World War I and World War II. What is interesting actually also for active mines in Europe, they're based on Mauritian deposits. All related somehow to Russian granites. In case of Hammerdon, there was an extensive exploration in the 1970s and 80s by MINEX, another mining major in this time, and they had the project already permitted when the Chinese started dumping of the Wolfram tungsten on the world market, and so the project was halted. It was acquired by Mineři, Australian junior company, 2007, and there was a feasibility study and off-take negotiations. Our company and the company GTP from the United States, we are the off-taker of this project and also helped a little bit with the negotiations with financing, construction over the last 2 years, and now it's the first new metal mine in the UK since 45 years. Currently ramping up the production, and we have received the first concentrates. Conventional open pit again, 3 million tons per year. They plan to produce over 3,000 tons WO3 in concentrate. That means this mine is bigger than the 3 other ones together. As I said, Europe has actually significant resource endowment with tungsten and numerous projects, mainly in the Iberian Peninsula, and just to name a few, it's for example Bergbau. It's a stockwork deposit in a granite. They have already some funding in place and plan to do about 2,300 tons of W3. They could start as early as end of next year. La Paria, another stockwork deposit a little bit further in the south of Spain. And then there are quite a few projects in Portugal as well. And there are others, more discrete players which come directly to us and ask whether we are interested. In general, this new project would bring something like 2,000 or 3,000 tons of WS3 per year on the market. When you look at the paper, they look very, very optimistic often. They look technically feasible, economically feasible. They have nice looking NPV, IRR, attractive for investors, and so on and so on. The question obviously, what's about the offtake? There are quite a lot of limiting factors, unfortunately, because we have nice deposits, so it would be good to have nice mines, but limiting factors. There's a significant overcapacity for APT, mainly in China. Limited APT capacity outside of China, Vietnam and Russia, but it's okay for what we need in the West. And in 2014, for example, there were about 8,000 to 10,000 tons of WO3 in concentrates available for Western off-takers. And this is only a handful. And there was no real shortage. So we see that about the market is 8,000 to 10,000 tons, a little bit more because there's some increase in use. And then the European projects, they would have also competition from projects which are similarly attractive in North America and Australia. I was recently on an international mining, International Tungsten Industry Association's conference in Hanoi. We have every year one of these conferences. And within 2 days, I talked to people, to junior miners, which want to bring altogether 30,000 tons on the market within the next 2, 3, 4 years. And that fits not very well to the 8,000 to 10,000 tons which are currently there, which are essentially adequate. So funding of new projects is somehow problematic. I have here the tungsten supply and demand balance for 2014, and we see that there are about 100,000 tons of WO3 which are coming as concentrate into the market. 80% come from China. Then there's about 30% recycling, and from Europe in 2014 it's only about 3,000 tons, and rest of the world and Vietnam and Russia have their share there. So altogether this block makes about 20,000 tons. This goes into the refiners and ferro-tungsten plants and recyclers. And we see already in 2014 quite a bit went into stocks, which have not been used in this year. And then from the rest, more than half of it goes in hard metals, means tools. When we look at the same graph with the distribution of areas, we see that China is accounting for more than half of the use of the tungsten. So we can take this out of our thinking of how do we get the supply-demand balance, because it goes from China and ends up in China. Europe, we see is 50% recycling, and now we would have to fill up this area here. We don't have enough APT capacity in Europe to fill this up, and we actually don't need so much APT capacity. We have about half of it can be produced in Europe itself, and we are at about 7,000 tons with hammered on here, and we need about 10,000 tons in Europe maximum at time. But anyway, we have also encouraging factors, and that's quite interesting, is that the cost development in Chinese mining sector is such that virtually at the current low prices, all Chinese mines are also not economic. When we look here at the tungsten mine cost curve for 2014, sorry, for 2014, we see that essentially all mines are not economic, because the current approximate revenue for miners lies here at about 130, and including, I mean, that's cash and realization costs, they lie for most of the mines between 150 and over 300. And since China does 80% of the production, you can imagine that most of these mines are also Chinese mines. So that gives one hope for Western mines, which are really good and economic. And the second one, we the off-takers, we need secure supply with suitable concentrates. So there's always a market for this material. Old mines are closing, new mines have to come on stream, but it has to be the right mines. And that is, I think, the most important point to make. So where's the future? We see that Europe has an excellent basis for tungsten mining, no question. We have excellent deposits, and permitting shouldn't be an unsurmountable problem, because permitting for tungsten mines is often relatively easy, because they are environmentally not very sensitive, most of them, because there are no chemicals involved in processing and so on. But the companies who want to bring a project onto the market, they have to understand the market. They have to avoid oversupply. They have to listen to the wishes of the off-takers. There are companies which propose to bring mines in the market which produce concentrates which are simply not good. Yeah, and they come up and talk to us and think that we adapt our processes to their concentrates in a market where there are really lots of different projects on the market. So it's important to cooperate with this handful of potential off-takers. Then it's important to develop the best deposit. What we see is that maybe the deposits are potentially developed which have the best marketing on the financial markets, but instead we should have really the best deposits being developed. Have to take due care on environment and social issues, We have to understand the continuity of the deposits because tungsten often has very high nugget effect and quite a few of the calculations are somehow doubtful. We have to learn lessons from historic mining of the same deposits because many of the deposits are brownfield deposits. Careful engineering to ensure concentrate quality, which is really useful for the off-takers. There's one big issue is, for example, radiation. And the most important, of course, for a sustainable new project is operation costs. It has to be so low that it can weather low price cycles as we have at time. We want to have a secure, predictable supply, so a mine has to have a cost curve which really fits into this. There is a possibility to look also at byproduct opportunities, especially the deposits here in Central Eastern Europe. They are often with tungsten only as a byproduct, and main products would be, for example, lithium or tin also. As a conclusion, as one provocative question is, when we have so many deposits and the overall offtake is not so big, do we need exploration? And I think we need. First of all, it's needed for the companies which are already, the mines which are already on the market for satellite deposit extension, but it's also needed because there are many projects which are somehow average, and average in this case not good enough. We really need the real good bonanza deposits, one which may have also byproducts and so on. And there are a few examples on world scale which are like this. Unfortunately, in Europe, most projects, they are not on this of this bonanza grade. And if we would find one of these, that would be quite certainly be developed and a nice addition to the tungsten mining of Europe. Okay, that it was. Glück auf is a German expression for, it's a miner greeting in German, and that's the last picture from our mine underground in a big open stone. Thank you.
Steffen. Does anyone have a quick question for Steffen? Chris.
Thank you there for a very interesting talk. You alluded there to the fact that some of these Eastern European deposits, tungsten was in actual fact a minor element, and the byproducts were really amongst the majors. For your particular refinery, what byproducts are important, and are they the majority of the revenue?
I mean, we do exclusively tungsten. We would buy the byproduct from a miner. So if there's this polished deposit which is primary, would be a copper deposit. They would sell the copper to the major copper market, and we would buy the tungsten. So that's for us. It's only, it is an advantage if a project produces tungsten as a byproduct, because then we think it's more stable economically, because it does not rely only on the tungsten as a revenue stream.
And in your refinery, do you recover other byproducts? If there's any indium?
No. The concentrates which we get, they are normally fairly clean. There would be a possibility as a very, very minor part. There's some cryolite, which is due to the process, which could be used if one does a clean enough quality, and a little bit of molybdenum.
Okay, thank you. Right, let's move on. Next speaker this morning is Steve Sharpe, who is the CEO of Euromax Resources.
Well, good morning, everyone. This has been very interesting so far. I have a bit of experience of Imerys and Namco underground diamond undersea diamond exploration. A few seabed crawlers that used to operate there. I think this is a very important conference because Europe sort of needs to wake up to the fact it needs to develop its mining industry, and that is not just in the reopening of old mines that used to operate, but in greenfield mine development. And I have to say that there is an entire industry in not permitting mines and just talking about them. I think we've taken on a very big challenge here with the greenfield development. I think it's very important because whilst we all know that the deposits are here in Europe, and thanks to the various geological surveys that show that, it's the not in my backyard syndrome. Can we develop projects that are visible and that are built to a modern standard? And Finland has sort of led the way in that. But on mainland Europe, there really hasn't been a great deal of mining development. And it's very easy for the anti-mining lobby within the EU to point at old mining operations and convince the public that that's what mining's like. And Mari has a lot to answer for. Hungary is, rightly concerned about mining, given the experience that it had about dead fish floating down the Danube, and that hit all the headlines, and that was only in 2000. So this is why we are reinventing the mining industry, which is the title of this speech. And I believe that the way we do that is to show people what a modern mine actually looks like and the economic benefits that it can bring to the host nation. The challenge, firstly, is to find a country that's willing to do that. And secondly, in our case, we thought that challenge wasn't big enough, so as a junior mining company with a 50 million market cap, we thought we'd try and build something that cost $500 million, just to make our life even more difficult. The Imerys project. I think if we do this properly, this will set an example for the region. There has not been a new mine development greenfield in the Balkan region for over 30 years, and as we were just hearing earlier, Wolf Minerals startup in the UK is the first for 45 years, and if it wasn't surrounded by English China clay pits, I would very much doubt whether that would be permitted in today's environment. We are right in the heart of Europe. We find ourselves in Macedonia, which I knew nothing about Macedonia until we moved into Macedonia. We were in northern Greece before, where we had a company called European Goldfields that we sold. We had seen just to the north in Macedonia, and for any Greeks in the audience, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. We could see that there was a large copper-gold porphyry that would, if we drilled it out properly, did have the potential to be a fairly significant regional project. What we knew from operating in Europe before, and this goes to the heart of the sustainability of the mining industry, and let's get very clear about that. The industry is sustainable, not the mines. And mining companies must stop talking about sustainable project development, because there's no such thing. Mine resources are finite, and unless the mining industry is willing to admit that, they will always be on the back foot. Anyway, that's my little bugbear on that subject. Macedonia is an EU accession country. We have been granted a mining concession, and we have a permit. We have our EIS approved, and that's because Macedonia is the only country in the world that does its permitting the right way round. And that is that you engage with all of the local and national officials, as well as the communities, to outline the project that you're planning to develop right at the start, once you believe you may have an economically viable project. That means that we can operate in complete transparency with both the national authorities and the local authorities, and most importantly, we can put in education programs within the schools to train up electricians, welders, HGV drivers, etc. So we really become part of the local and national economy. One of the things we know about Europe, as I said from our time in Greece, is that the massive advantage that it has is the infrastructure. And whilst on the face of it one may think, well, labour rates are fairly high in Europe, what makes these projects potentially very economic is the fact that there's grid power, there's paved highways, you don't have to build a railway, and that makes our project in particular work. You would not build this project in the middle of the desert. You know, it would not be economic. It may be a much higher grade deposit, but it would still not be economic. What makes our project economic is the fact that it's easy to mine, it's a simple ore body, it won't blow the lights out, it is a consistent, homogeneous grade throughout, albeit a fairly low grade, and it produces a concentrate that we will truck to the Bergbau smelter in Bulgaria, which is already there, and in reference to offtake, we have agreed an offtake with Imerys. On the back of that, we've been able to finance the project. And this is what the project looks like. And we were attracted initially, we put in $5 million of our own cash into this thing as a management team to do some infill drilling and to take the thing firstly through a preliminary economic analysis. And our latest published document is our pre-feasibility study. Our definitive feasibility study is in the process of being finalised and will be published in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But what it shows is 2.5 million ounces of gold, about 1 billion tonnes of copper. It's pretty much a 50-50 copper-gold revenue split. And at 1,200 gold and $3 copper, which may be a couple of $100 above the current prices for gold and about 50 cents higher than it ought to be for copper, it shows a pre-tax NPV of just under $700 million. The NPV really doesn't tell the full story, however, because this is a 23-year mine life, and it produces consistently over that 23-year period. And as I said, the economics work because of the infrastructure, the low transportation cost, the simple processing, and the incredibly low strip ratio. And so adjusted operating cash cost, and that is selling the copper as a byproduct, gives $333 an ounce all-in sustaining. But there's the capex, $500 million, and how on earth does a tiddly little junior company like Euromax with a 50 million market cap possibly raise $500 million? And I hope this is the next slide that will tell us how to do it. No, it won't, so I will flip on to that. We brought in the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, who are crucial in this whole greenfield development of financing throughout Europe, and particularly in Eastern Europe, helping former communist countries transition through to being market economies. Before they came in, however, I really wanted to do something commercially that would indicate to the market, whether it was interested or not, that this mine stood up economically on its own 2 legs. And as a result, we negotiated a gold stream with Royal Gold out of Denver, Colorado. They have given us $15 million so far, and they will provide a further $160 million towards the financing of the project. We have agreed an offtake with the Bergbau smelter in Bulgaria. That is owned by Imerys. Imerys is German, and because of that, and as in fact Wolf Minerals are doing a very similar thing, we benefit from the Untied Credit Guarantee Scheme of Germany, which is known as the UFK, which is the German government supporting financing of mining projects around the world that commit to deliver to German smelters. On the back of that, that allows us a 12-year project finance facility, which is unheard of in today's market, and it gives us $215 million of project finance, which is currently expected to be provided on the basis of the terms we have by Société Générale and UniCredit, and potentially European Bank as well. Over and above that, $25 million of leasing from CAT. So what we've done is put together a financing package of $400 million out of the $500 million that we need to build this project. And the balance is what keeps me up at night right now. So what's it like to work in Macedonia? As I said, I'd never been to Macedonia before until I was asked to come and look at this project. And I've never been to a place like it. It is the most astonishing country. It's very small, there's only 2 million people, most of whom live in Skopje, the capital, which was flattened in 1960 by an earthquake. The epicenter was right under the city. So it's an unusual place from an architectural standpoint. But what the Prime Minister, Nikola Gruevski, and the Minister of Finance, Zoran Staverski, have done is quite remarkable. They have made foreign direct investment an absolute cornerstone of the national economy. In fact, the largest exporter in the country now is Johnson Matthey, and they produce in Macedonia all of the catalytic converters for Mercedes and BMW. And that's through these rather innovative free trade zones that Macedonia has established. When I say that the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance have done something quite remarkable, it's a big challenge to transition from a communist country mentality into a market mentality, and it relies on a lot of trust, and basically the population need to be able to see the benefits. Addressing the trust issue, what the Prime Minister has done is he has brought back high-flying graduates from Harvard, Wharton, and the various business schools in North America and Australia, and given them government positions. So these are second-generation Macedonians. They are the children of the Macedonians that emigrated after the earthquake. So we have an exceptionally talented bunch of FDI ministers who have regular, and by regular I mean monthly, meetings with us to discuss how they could improve the environment for us in terms of the business environment, how to get things done. It's astonishing. The country is run almost more like a company than a country in terms of its economic policies. It's an accession country to the European Union, and it's being blocked from joining the European Union because of its name, Macedonia, in which it's in dispute with Greece, and if you fly into northern Greece, Thessaloniki, you will see it called Macedonia Airport, and it's all to do with where Alexander the Great was born, apparently. Because of our completely transparent approach with the local and national authorities, we've been able to have this open dialogue and been able to involve the local universities in some of our design work for the project. So our tailings facility, for example, has been designed by the University of Schmidt under the supervision of Golder Associates. So we're bringing in international renowned experts and letting them work in partnership with the local institutions to really gain a level of confidence within country, but also for the broader development of the Macedonian and regional mining industry. Water is a massive issue in that part of the world, and so we've brought in Schlumberger Water Services as the specialist water advisors who have done a fantastic job in terms of their analysis. And of course this is all driven to being EP3 World Bank and EBRD compliant. On the DFS we have MYTHBUSTER completing the main bulk of that. As I said, in a few weeks' time that will be published. DMT on mining, I'm sure these names will be familiar to you. Gold, as I said, on the tailings, SGS on MET, and the original Geology, which was done by Tetra Tech. So it's about helping the Macedonian economy develop. That's, I guess, what is at the heart of this. But we wanted to take it a stage further. You know, we've all seen the lessons of Africa and how Western companies go in, take the resources and disappear, and that's one of the issues for mining in Europe, is that we have to be part of an industrial core rather than being seen as coming in, taking what we want and disappearing. And you know, and that's particularly relevant in Europe to gold. I mean, gold, I've been in the gold business for about 30 years, originally at Rothschild, and where we used to do the gold fix. And gold's a very emotional subject as far as national gold deposits are concerned, which is why we have a lot of the secrecy laws, etc., that we do in the former Russian satellite states. As a foreign mining company coming into a country saying that you will be mining their gold resources, you are seen as potentially stealing the mother wealth of the nation. And that creates a lot of issues, unsurprisingly, which is why we've taken a step of assisting the Macedonians to develop the mine rather than going in and telling them this is how you do it and this is what you must do, which is why we have these partnerships with the local universities and also then bringing in international expertise who they can learn from. But as I said, we've gone the extra step, and that was to move all of our corporate functions to Macedonia. So our company is now run from Skopje. Our head office is in Skopje. We employ Macedonian staff that do all of our legal work, investor relations, and also our corporate development. And that's vitally important because there's a lot about foreign direct investment discussed in Macedonia, but this is helping Macedonia be the first Macedonian company listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and helps them access international capital markets. And that is tied up with the fact that I do believe that the development of this Greenfield project will be a flagship, and it will spur a lot of further development in Serbia, in Bulgaria, in Greece, all of the neighbouring countries, when they see the economic benefits that a mining operation can bring. And also that it doesn't have to be the environmental disasters that some of the old Soviet operations that everyone is familiar with used to be. So that's it in a nutshell. Sorry, I only had 7 slides and I thought I'd talk for 5 minutes, but my record is 2 hours and 25 minutes. So at that point I will leave it. That's just the summary. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Steve. Has anyone got a question for Steve after that very wide-ranging speech? No? Okay, great. Obviously, coffee break is looming wide in everyone's minds. The next speaker this morning is an old friend of MINEX, Professor Alexander Antonov, who is the President of Industrial Mineral Services Worldwide.
Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. The initiative to gather and consider the mineral potential of Europe seems to be timely. The studies of many well-known experts from Germany, Czech Republic, Serbia, and other countries indicate that the potential of EU mineral resources is far from depletion. Now the industry goes through the hard times all over the world, but difficult times generate new initiatives and new opportunities. May I bring to your attention an overview of main ore provinces of Central and Southeastern Europe that we attribute to two trends of northwestern strike. It's generally known that Europe is a historical region for the industry. Mining activities started 1,000 years ago. We would like to emphasize that identifying of new resources is possible on the basis of modern innovative exploration technologies. Geological exploration is the first and fundamental stage of mining process. Northern ore trends of Central Europe includes the oldest European mining provinces, Harz, Erzgebirge, and Schmidt. In spite of a long mining history, there is substantial residual mineral potential is assumed. For example, Dr. Seifert notes substantial potential in Germany for polymetallic ore, Kupferschiefer, tin, tungsten, lithium, and others. 9 exploration projects are underway now. Also, it's rather interesting to know a structural relationship between this northern ore trend with oil and gas structures of North Sea that we can see on this slide. Now let us take a look at each of these provinces. This is world-famous Harz. Harz is a unique geological phenomenon. As is known, it is uplifted by 5 to 7 kilometers above the fundament in the early Cretaceous, when the northern Harz boundary fault, this one, was activated. This isolated block is rich in mineral deposits, including volcanic massive sulfides, silver, lead, zinc vein deposits, copper shale, or in German, Kupferschiefer. Rammelsberg is another unique feature in Harz. The only metal ore mine in the world which had been in continual operation for over 1,000 years, beginning with the end of the 10th century until 1988, when the ore was exhausted. You can see the impressive numbers of production and value in the present prices. It is known that in 2011 an exploration campaign has been carried out by the Danish company, an attempt to discover another Rammelsberg. Another type of mineralization which deserves special attention is copper silver shale. other deposits of this trend, the ore of Mansfeld is rich with silver. With this grade, silver has the close value to copper. 1 ton of copper is accompanied by 5.5 kilograms silver. In the similar Zechstein copper shales in the neighboring Poland, silver grades are much lower, in the range of 40–80 grams per ton. So 1 ton of copper is accompanied by just 2.3 kilograms of silver. Besides Mansfeld, there are other unexploited deposits in the area, in particular Helderungen. Not long ago, a project of European Regional Development Fund with that name has been started. The group of German mining experts analyzed economical and socio-economical possibility of reactivating mining in Mansfeld. 2 alternatives has been considered: to explore and exploit another deposit in copper shales in Helderungen, or to extract copper and silver from stockpiles resulted from the previous mining excavations and containing valuable residues. The authors of this study set themselves the question: what is preferable now, to focus on discovery of new ore bodies, new fields, or to give preference to modern methods of extracting metals from the tailings, where they were accumulated in huge amounts over decades and even centuries? The dilemma can be topical for other ore districts under consideration. Now, modern airborne geophysical data can now be precisely GPS located, and when combined with spectrometry, Landsat imagery and advanced interpretation tools, are now able to produce accurate multi-parameter images of the subsurface geology. V10 is used for exploration of variety minerals and metals. It is leading time domain electromagnetic system, provides with precise prognosis and optimal drill planning. Helicopter electromagnetic systems, V10 and Z10, are cost-effective and time-saving tools. Z10 is another airborne system, magnetotellurics, that is used for deep investigation of geological structures and for mineral and hydrocarbon exploration. It is one of the few electromagnetic tools available for deep porphyry copper-gold exploration, that important in particular to the Balkan countries. Now come to Erzgebirge, which is another ancient and famous European province with the 9th century's mining history. It is generally known that mines near Freiberg were described as early in 12th century. The famous ore deposits of Yachimov or Yachimovstal in Czech Republic show a similar mineral wealth. An indelible print in the millennium-long history of mining in Erzgebirge has been left by the Soviet uranium operations in 1946–1990. These slides show how many mines were operating until the breakup and one can imagine how much of other valuable metals could remain in the tailings. The map has been published by the Soviet geologists, veterans of uranium mining in East Germany and former Czechoslovakia not long ago, published not long ago. After closing uranium mines in 1991, reclamation rehabilitation has taken more than 20 years and cost more than 7 billion euros. This is just to show that Czech operation belong to the same northwest trend, which is a part of the whole northern trend which we're considering. Together with German, on the German side, there are two, its relationship between silver and uranium. Schlemmer Alberoga was the largest uranium operation of that time. And Schneider is a famous silver mine for centuries. It gave up to 1,600 tons of silver by the end of 15th century. This also to show how many uranium operations were in the area and so what we can expect in the tailings. The next ore districts next to southeast in that trend is Przybram in Czech Republic. It has the same composition of mineralization as Erzgebirge, a so-called five-element formation: nickel, cobalt, nickel, silver, and uranium, plus arsenic. Przybram, Kutna Hora, Jihlava deposits are similar to those of Erzgebirge. Silver mining has started in 12th century, and there's also a lot of stockpiles and tailings on the surface, which also some reserves for extraction. Now Alpine front stopped that trend, and new trend we can see, new trend of the same northwest direction started in Slovakia and going up to southern Greece. This is simplified, very simplified scheme of the eastern part of Alpine Europe. It demonstrates confining of silver polymetallic ore districts to the trend of that direction, similar to the previous one in Hercynian Europe. It extends to southern Greece and includes a number of ore districts with silver polymetallic mineralization. In many deposits, silver is the first or second metal on its value as compared with the other metals. That is why this trend was referred to as the main European silver belt. This province embraces Slovakia and northern Hungary. It is explored in a lesser extent, northern Hungary is explored in lesser extent than Slovak Panska-Štiavnica district. Romania ore districts lie apart from the silver trend and do not contain significant amounts of silver. At the same time, it's a famous gold province, and it is not too bad for Romania. We're looking forward to tomorrow's presentations on Romania. By analogy with North Germany, North Sea, what we saw on the previous first slides, we think that southern Greece and Asian area are promising for hydrocarbons. This is Sharpe. After Pannonic Basin, Malas, the trend appears again in Serbia. Serbia, as well as Macedonia, is a central part of that polymetallic trend or European silver belt, with numerous silver, lead, zinc deposits and operating mines. On its other Balkanian province, as well as the neighboring Bulgaria, is a receptacle of copper porphyry mineralization with operating mines and copper smelters. As the next presentation would be of Dr. Milošević, it is devoted to Serbia. There is no need to talk much here about Serbia. Let me touch just one aspect that deals with the efficiency of copper mining and smelting complexes, since copper production is an important component of GDP for both Serbia and Bulgaria. With the current low metals prices and falling demand, it is difficult to keep the production afloat. It is important to discover and develop higher grade ore bodies on the flanks of Bor, Majdanpek in Serbia, Asarel Medet in Bulgaria. Airborne geophysics can be fast and cost-effective tool in such exploration campaigns. There are numerous examples of its effectiveness in the exploration of copper porphyry targets. Recently, this September, they have been demonstrated in Bulgaria to the mining team of Asarel Medet in Panagurish, where received a positive response. May I bring to your attention on one such example from Panama, but actually the works have been carried out successfully in a number of ore fields of Asia, Africa, and America. In Europe, not too much so far. You can see on the left picture that one of the 4 targets was not received, it was not recognized as promising and covered by detailed exploration. In August 2010, the decision was taken by the company to fly airborne electromagnetics and cover the difficult terrain rapidly. A positive anomaly has been discovered in Balboa, similar to the existing deposit Botija. The work has been done just over 3 months. And by December that year, it became clear that a significant discovery had been made. Over the next 18 months, 94 holes were drilled that have contact the new ore body with pretty good thickness and grades. This is a new ore body. You can see the parameters that are higher than average for Cobra district. Serbian and Bulgarian copper smelters face a similar challenge. Similar examples are available for other types of mineralization as well. Massive sulfides, epithermal, high and low sulfitization gold. And now it's also this slide Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Has anyone got a question for Alexander? No? Good, we can move on quickly. The last talk this morning is by Dragan Milošević of Terragold. Dragan.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dragan Milošević and I'm coming from Serbia. I'm a mining engineer. I would like to thank organizers for organizing this forum and inviting me to speak about, say some words about Serbia. Previous guys take all my time, so I will be fast. I will speak about geology and mining potential, maybe a few words about political framework required to invest in Serbia, and some about foreign direct investments. Mineral potential of Serbia is believed to be more significant than its past and present production. This is very interesting, and you will see later why is that so. Some words about Serbia. Area 88,000 square kilometers, 7.2 million people, $4,200 US per capita GDP. Mining is 1.4 to 2% of this GDP. We have high mining development potential and very good geological potential. We have based geological map for entire Serbia. Ministry of Mining and Geology has developed this geological information system of Serbia, and there is more than 2,000 metallic minerals deposit and mineral occurrences, 2,500 non-metallic mineral deposit and occurrences, 46 coal basins, 250 oil and shales, oil and gas deposits with 19 oil and gas fields, 4 oil shale basins. Estimation of mineral resources from this geological information system is 2.6 billion tons of copper and gold, almost 90 million tons of lead, zinc and silver, 380 million tons of molybdenum, etc. You will see all this in website of MINEX forum. You can find these presentations. All these mineral resources are split in the primary economic significant secondary and tertiary. So all this data you will find there, just not to read it. Also, non-metallic mineral resources of Serbia are known. These are two maps about fossil fuel resources of Serbia. On the left side you will see these coal basins, and on the right side oil, gas and oil shale deposits. Some few words about critical raw materials initiative from European Union. Raw materials are crucial to Europe's economy and essential to maintaining and improving our quality of life. For example, we have these critical raw materials include rare earth elements called in niobium. I will say some few words about what Serbia has and how can help in this development of mining in Europe. In Serbia we have known deposit of antimony, borates, cobalt, magnesite and magnesium. Cobalt is one of the critical metals identified under the EU Raw Materials Initiative. For example, in Rudzinci Velice basin we have 16.4 million tons of ore with 1.16% of nickel, 0.055% of cobalt, which gives us almost 9,000 tons of cobalt metal. In all other basins and occurrences, we have almost 15,000 tons of cobalt, which could be developed. Some words about previous exploration activities. From 2003 to 2013, we have 50 exploration companies in Serbia, from which more than 20 are foreign exploration companies. They held 125 exploration licenses, in non-metallic mineral resources 46 licenses, and in metallic mineral resources 79 exploration licenses. From those 46, lithium and borates took 50% and 23 licenses. From metallic minerals active exploration licenses, 84% goes to gold and copper. This chart is about trend of these exploration activities 2003, 2009, and 2010 to 2013. What are the most significant investors? Our resource, Riusala, Danube resource, and Rocket exploration. Our resource with exploration of copper and gold. They invested 170 million euros, sorry, $170 million. Riusala exploration with some $65 million. Danube with 45 million, and Rocket exploration with 50 million. These data are for the same period till 2013. In the last few years they invested much more money. What they find in these exploration activities, our resource 47 million tons of copper, 7 tons of gold, then resource 230 million tons of molybdenum, and also some more than 300,000 million tons of copper. Riusala exploration find jadarite, 125 million tons of jadarite, and Rocket exploration with some 65 million tons of copper and gold. This is almost the same data about exploration licenses. We saw this drop down in the last few years in these exploration activities, non-metallic mineral resources and also metallic mineral resources. I think that this is the price of the commodities are most important in this drop down. What we have as a significant mineral potential, porphyry, copper and massive sulfide deposits, Čukaru-Peki from Rocket exploration, then sediment costed gold deposit, Potičuk, Tisnica from our resource, and lithium boron deposit of Jadar Basin, Riusala exploration, that's Rio Tinto in Serbia. From those finds, world-class ongoing projects are Jadar project from Rio Tinto and Čukaru-Peki from Freeport-McMoran. Jadar project, Rio Tinto, is pre-feasibility stage lithium borate development project with considerable economic potential. In 2007, geologists discovered the mineral jadarite. Incidentally, jadarite is the same chemical composition as the frictional kryptonite of supermethane. It could be found only in Serbia, nowhere else in the world. They declared inferred a resource of 125.3 million tons with lithium and boron, 16.2 million tons of boron. And they are exploring it further. Second project is Čukaru-Peki Freeport-McMoran project with reservoir minerals. 5 kilometers for bore mining complex. Porphyry, copper, gold mineralization. Mineral resources are 65.3 million tons with 2.6% of copper and 1.5 grams per ton of gold. In this deposit, they include 6.8 million tons of copper with 9.6% of copper and 5.9 grams per ton of gold. Some few words about mining legislation in Serbia. We are waiting for adoption of a new mining code, which will be adopted till end of this year. Beneficiations are time frame for exploration is 8 years, previously it was 7 years. We have 3 plus 2 years with additional 2 years for significant find in the last exploration years. This new mining code define reservation of exploration area for next phase for exploration field up to 2 years. They define expropriation of the land for private investors. For the first time, we have security of tenure in this mining code, and it gives us fastest permitting procedures for taking all these licenses for operating. This is algorithm for mine permitting procedures. It looks like it's complicated, but it's not. Everything is known, and it's not so hard to finish all these things. Political framework, you know that we are started the negotiation about EU membership in January 2014. New government is determined to improve business climate, support for investors, focus on new employment, economic reform, fiscal and budget consolidation. They adopt a new set of laws, including the labor law, law on bankruptcy, law on privatization, law on planning and construction, law on investment is in the process of adoption, and law of geological exploration mining is also in process of adoption. Why to invest in Serbia? We have good infrastructure, existing mine industry, skilled workforce, low crime rate, nice climate, 47,000 university and college graduates, 75 high school graduates every year. We have good infrastructure, highways and local roads, railways, electricity, power lines. Corporate tax is among the lowest. VAT is 20%, salary tax rate 10%. You will, all the investors which came in Serbia and invest more than 8.5 million euros, they will have some extra benefits about employment and everything else. Serbia is one of the most competitive locations in Europe according to Eurostat. Among 37 European countries, the lowest cost of electricity, gas, etc. In previous years, according to Economist Intelligence Unit, Serbia was foreseen in 2008 to make the largest improvement in the business environment in the region of Eastern Europe between 2009 and 2013. In 2011, Serbia was the leader in Central European, Eastern European attracting FDI with 2.2 billion in inbound investments. And according to Ernst & Young, we have Serbia was Europe's favorite investment location. This is a company which were invested in Serbia so far since 2000. We have attracted 46 new projects with 12,000 new jobs till 2012. And instead of conclusion, I will read one sentence. The critical focus is not on how mining can be sustainable, but on how mining, minerals and metals can contribute to sustainable development. Hope that was fast, so thank you very much.
Thanks. Does anyone have a question for Dragan? Okay, well in that case I'll bring the session to a close. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's certainly been very wide-ranging, both in commodities and in the extent of Europe that we've covered. So thanks very much. I think maybe you'll join me in a round of applause for our speakers. Thank you.